This is a quick video. We've got our first look at the new second generation Citroen C5 Aircross. It's kind of flagship SUV. It's a C segment SUV. Goes up against a whole host of cars like the Opel Grandland, Peugeot 3008, Kia Sportage, Hyundai Tucson. There's a bunch of competitors for this car, and now Citroen has an all new generation. This is the electric version, so this is the EC5 Aircross. It's actually going to be available with two different powertrains or different battery options with very long ranges on the larger battery. We'll flash up all of the specs here on the screen so you can have a look and read through them, but there's a pretty good set of options available. Whichever battery you choose, it's actually going to be pretty good. There will also be a plug-in hybrid, and there will also be a hybrid that uses 48 volts hybrid technology. There is no longer going to be a diesel variant in this, and some people won't be too happy about that because there's a lot of people in Ireland that still really like diesel engines. Nevertheless, let's go through and talk about some of the details and some of the design on this first of all. So you've got the new face, which is kind of what we've seen on the C3, the updated C4, and now this as well. So you've got these kind of blocky LED daytime running lights, same up top here and further down. And these are the matrix lights, the matrix LED options, which you'll be able to tell that these are the matrix because they've got black inside there. You've got black across the grille here, and as I mentioned, this is the fully electric version, so there isn't an open grille as such. All of this is enclosed, whereas if you glance very quickly over here on the regular one, you'll see that it has that extra grille above where the number plate is. So that's one way that you'll be able to tell these vehicles apart. Other details, when you kind of come around the car, you can see this is actually the first time you'll be able to get up to 20-inch wheels on a C5 Aircross. Not everyone is going to want that, but you might want to have the larger wheels. And there's kind of a lot going on the side here. You've got this kind of flattened off wheel arch here. You can probably just make it, there's a bit of a kind of scalloped area here. A lot of detailing, and these are little design inserts as well, which kind of just break it up a little bit more. And this obviously is quite a high spec version, so you've got things like contrasting black mirrors, contrasting black roof as well. So it all does look reasonably good. Around the back is where it gets a little bit more interesting in terms of design, much like what we saw in the concepts. Check this out, these little winglets and how the lights are designed very much mimic what we saw on the concepts. A lot of this is partly design, but it is, the designers say, as much about aerodynamics. So it's how the air comes around the car. You can also see these little winglets here, again, all helping channel air around the back of the car, which is where a lot of the aerodynamic benefits of these cars come from. Same here on the rear section, and even right down on this little bit, this little knob on the bumper is all about making it more aerodynamic. Now, I'm all for this. I think it looks pretty cool. It's a bit more interesting. I like how this light kind of wraps around it. What I don't like is when you get up close and look at this, because Citroen has used this kind of high gloss black material on this. And okay, granted, this is today, the car's been available, but just it looks so grubby and grimy, very easy to scratch. And I think this is the kind of thing that's going to look very, very tired in not a long space in time. So I really wish designers would just come up with a different alternative to this kind of high gloss black thing. It looks great when they designed it on their screens, but in reality, it just doesn't work out that well. Around the back, you've also got the high gloss material in the lower bumper section again, although weirdly the outer section is just a harder wearing unpainted plastic. And well, that looks nice, but again, it's kind of, this is the bit that's going to get all the scuffs and scrapes on it. Other things, you've got Aircross all the way across the back here. Obviously this is the latest current Citroen brand logo. And yes, you do get a wiper, although this is absolutely teeny tiny wiper on the rear, but still better to have it than to not have it. One other interesting feature while we're at the back is the amount of boot space available, because whether you get the hybrid whether you get the plug-in hybrid or whether you get the electric version, the boot space remains the exact same. So you get up to 651 litres. Now, I say 651 litres because that's liquid volume. That's not really what you're probably going to get, but you do have a relatively short load lip. It's quite dark in here, so I apologize, but you can lift up. You've got more set underneath, so you want to pop in your charging cables. You can do all that. That is quite good. Annoyingly, this doesn't really stay up all that well. It's a little bit flimsy, but still pretty decent amount of space. You can also drop down the rear seats, so you've got a bit more room there as well. And on this version, it's electrically operated as well, so that's a further benefit. The interior is where Citroen has made a much bigger step forward in terms of design and actually material quality. So let's start off with what we've got here. This is kind of what the marketing people in Citroen like to call a waterfall touchscreen. It's just a portrait style touchscreen, in other words. It's a 13-inch display. Does look reasonably nice, similar to what we've seen in Fords, for example, but it's fixed. This one doesn't move. I do like how this all comes round. That's kind of a nice piece of design. I'm not so much of a fan of this glossy black, which again is probably going to look a bit scuffed and scraped over time, but they have kind of etched in the double chevron-esque logo of the Citroen logo, so that's not too bad. You've got the usual Stellantis rocker toggle for going between forward and reverse, which is what we get on every single Stellantis car. Same with the drive mode button, and you've got an electric handbrake. Single cup holder here, which is a small one, but there's actually two more underneath there, so that's not too bad. And there's also extra storage down there. You've got USB ports as well for connecting your devices. Wireless charger here is quite useful too, and it's at an angle, so, and it's kind of got a rubberized texture on it, so the good thing is you're probably going to put your phone down there and it's going to stay charging, which is good. A big volume button here as well, a roller, again got the Citroen chevron logo on it, which I think is a nice little touch. Buttons here for the usual stuff like demisting your windows, but if you want to adjust the temperature, you're going to have to rely on doing the screen here. Now, the buttons themselves, if you want to call them buttons, the touch areas are relatively big, but my issue is you're still going to have to probably glance away from the road to adjust those, which isn't really ideal, especially when you've got a driver monitor here, which is going to be watching your face, and when you do start to look away, will start to beep at you, telling you to concentrate on the road. But of course, you're too hot because you have to turn this down, and so the argument goes round and round. The steering wheel is not bad. It's a flat bottom design. It's again got these kind of glossy haptic buttons here, if you want to call them buttons, or more touch sensitive areas. It's a bit like what we've seen on the C3. It's not a bad design. It's actually feels okay in your hand. It's, you know, not the nicest of materials, but equally it's by no means the worst either. These column stalks are actually quite nice to use. Again, they have that kind of glossy finish to them, and you've got a 10-inch display in front, instrument display. You can configure that a few different ways, and there's also on this version a head-up display too. The rest of the dashboard, all your vents are all up here, which is nice, and this kind of fabric material I think looks nice and it feels nice, which is a bonus. The seats are also a new design. They're quite comfortable. They've got more of a bolster than previously. They're still quite padded. You know, this is a big thing Citroen likes to have. They like to have padding and bolstering and all about comfort, and that's true in this. But one thing that this new seat doesn't have is an ISOFIX in the front, which the previous generation had. So that's a mark down for this car. You now only get two ISOFIX in the back, and I'll show you those in a moment. You also lose the 3 individual seat setup as well, which again is a bit of a mark down. There's more storage underneath there, again quite useful, quite deep actually, so that's pretty good. Door bins are actually quite a useful size, and you can see this has a panoramic roof and the top section opens. You can close that up again, so again it's quite nice, and you've got a full blind, so you can open or close all that depending on how you want it. So overall, I think design wise it's actually pretty good. There's a few material bits that probably aren't ideal, but generally it's actually pretty nice in here. Nicer on the inside than on the outside in terms of it's more of a change, it's nicer, good quality setup. One thing I'll just show you as well is it's got a manually adjustable steering wheel, but there's actually a fairly good amount of space there in terms of how you can move around. So yeah, pretty comfy and pretty versatile depending on your height and size, etc. Now, let me show you what it's like in the back seats. Okay, this is what it's like in the rear seats. Now, for reference, I'm 5'8", 5'9". I've got lots of headroom here, so that's good. And this driving seat is my usual driving position, so I'm kind of sitting behind myself. I've got a pretty good amount of room in here, I'll be honest, you know. I can get my feet in under the seat in front, which is good. There's no real, you know, transmission tunnel, if you want to call that, as such in the center. So it's almost entirely flat across. And the middle seat isn't too bad. Now, you do lose out a little bit by having this here, the back of the center console, but it's not the worst thing in the world in terms of how much space or how much compromise it is. Middle seat, so this is the thing, often these middle seats are really like uncomfortable because they're normally very stiff, but there's actually still pretty much as much cushioning under the middle seat as there is on the outer seats. So that's actually a pretty good thing. Obviously, if you don't want to use that, you can pull down the armrest. You've got that there. A little bit of bolstering on the sides of the two outer seats. They do have Isofix, so the two outer seats will get that, which is good. And although you can't slide this seat bench forward and back, you can recline the seats. There's a little, I'll actually show you on this side. If you look down here, there's a little latch that is a very handy and inconvenient thing to reach. Normally, when you recline those seats, there's like this little kind of tag that you've got to reach in, fiddle back here and try and pull. This button, much nicer, and yeah, you've got quite a bit of angle. So that's it all the way up. Obviously, if you're an orthopedic, you want to make sure your posture is correct, but you can slide it all the way back. So there's a good amount of space there. Door bins also in the back here are pretty good size. You'll get a decent sized drinks bottle in there. So yeah, they're not completely useless. And you've got some netting here in the back, although weirdly, this doesn't seem all that tall of a net. So I don't think you'll be putting an iPad in upright and it might not stay in place. But anyway, overall, pretty good amount of space. Front seats are wide enough apart that you can still see the road ahead. That big sunroof certainly helps, and these windows are actually a pretty decent size. They're a little bit high up in terms of the belt line here, but if you're sitting up in a high seat, kids will still be able to see out, so that's pretty good too. Now, I mentioned there's going to be two battery options. The largest of those, actually both, will be available with 11 kilowatt AC at the start and an option of a 22 kilowatt bi-directional charger later on, and the maximum DC charging speed is 160 kilowatts, so you're still looking at around about 28 to 30 minutes to get a pretty substantial charge. But one other thing is that this EC5 has what I think might be the largest flap on any modern car. This thing is just absolutely huge for what is effectively just a normal CCS charge. The Dacia Duster used to have a really big one. I think this is bigger again. But anyway, there you go. That's one extra feature of this. I guess it's like an air brake. If only you could deploy it and maybe slow the car down a little bit. Anyway, if you want to know more about this and the whole range of the new Citroen C5 Aircross, head over to our website. It's CompleteCar.ie. It's linked down below in the description, so have a look at that. Tell us what you think, so get involved on the old keyboard. Get in and tell us in the comments below what you think. Would you go for the petrol hybrid, the plug-in hybrid, the electric, or maybe something else? Let us know. Thanks for watching.